Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. And today we have Carolyn Pope in the studio. She's an animal communicator and therapist, and we are going to be talking about the art of animal communication. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. Now, can anybody communicate with animals?
Absolutely. We are all born with the ability to communicate. Communication is telepathics. Tele is distance, pathics is feeling. So essentially it's feeling over a distance. We're all born with the ability. A mother takes her baby into the hospital and says there's something wrong with my baby. The doctors and nurses always listen because most of the time there is. Identical twins, one just knowing what the other's doing, that's been documented throughout history. It's all telepathics. But of course, from the baby's perspective, unless it's actually dying, telepathics really don't get validated. Then the child says its first word, mom or dad or whatever. Everyone makes a fuss. So the child learns verbalizing gets my needs met, telepathics not so much. Then they get that bit older and they might say the pony's got a stomach ache or the dog's got a headache. And often parents will either punish the child for lying or make fun of them. Don't be silly, horses can't talk. So of course you start shutting down on one and building up on the other. And telepathics is like any muscle. You don't use it, you lose it.
And how can we communicate with animals?
Clear mind, always a good thing. People that meditate, I don't, often find that helpful. Water's really important because you're using your energetic field. It's electromagnetic. Think of the snowy hydro scheme. The more water you drink, the easier it is. As a coffee addict, I really struggled with that in the beginning. But also don't start with your own animals. Start with someone else's because you need to remain detached in order to know what you're getting is from that particular animal and not from yourself. It's like doctors don't treat their own children. Clairvoyants never read for themselves. You need that detachment, particularly when you're starting, and you also need honest feedback so you know whether you're on the right track or not.
Do you have any examples of animal communication that you could share?
Absolutely. Very first, when I'd read the book, I actually started by reading a book back in the mid-90s called, surprise, surprise, Communicating with Animals by a guy called Arthur Myers, who was a journalist. Went down the horse paddock and the first horse I saw told me it wanted clean water. I looked in the trough, there was nothing there. I spent 2.5 years working every day, giving myself a migraine from hell quite often before I got anything else. And every time that horse walked by me, if he was on the lead rope, he'd plant his feet, stop and eyeball me. I'd love to know what the poor guy was trying to get through. Never got through anything again. One horse I worked with, the owner had called me as the last resort. The horse twice a year would blow up massively with fluid. It was down at the Werribee Vet School. It actually had to have a tracheotomy to keep breathing. That's how much fluid we're talking. They were feeding it bananas by the dozen because they were having to give it so much Frutix or furosemide diuretics to get rid of the fluid that it was losing all its potassium. They were going to euthanize it. Again, this was before internet. She literally pulled out a whole trolley full of vet notes. Started talking with the mare and the first thing she showed me was her foal and then said, problem's been since then. And the owners went, oh my God, she's never come back in season since she had the foal. And then they realised that the twice a year she was having the problem was actually when horses come in season twice a year. And it was when this was happening. A craniosacral therapy session this was before I did it, from the lovely Deb Lee, and a couple of bottles of she oak, the Australian bushflower essence, and the mare never had a problem again. Craniosacral therapy was derived from osteopathy, I think about 35, 40 years ago, but don't quote me on the dates. There was a couple of different people that discovered it, but basically your cranio is your cranium, sacral is your sacrum. The craniosacral rhythm can be felt anywhere on the body. You've got your heart rate, you've got your respiratory rate, you've got your cranial rhythm. CST, as it's called, craniosacral, CST for short, much easier for most people, works on the limbic system in the brain, so the emotional part of the brain. The most pressure you're putting on a body is literally that of a 5-cent piece. And then it's basically that whole doing and non-doing. The body's got its own wisdom. It knows what it needs. And quite often what a practitioner thinks the body needs versus what the body actually needs is a little bit like the Montagues and the Capulets. So you're simply allowing the body to unwind. And that's what I love about it. You'll have physical releases. You'll have emotional releases. Animals can process for 2 to 3 days afterwards. And the results really are profound. And yet it's so gentle you can do it on a newborn.
And could you give us some tips on how we can communicate with animals?
Think of, for most people, I think they find the proverbial thought bubble, you know, the little cartoon bubbles, putting a thought in there and throwing it at the animal. And whatever you get back first, that very instantaneous, that's communication. Quite often when I'm talking with an animal, the owner will get as far as, did he, do they? I've already got the answer, yes or no, because a thought is instantaneous. Trying to put words to something, particularly if it's an important concept, can take you a second or two. And of course, the thoughts being so instantaneous, it's trust your gut. That's the biggest thing. And whatever comes into your mind first, don't try and do the logical right brain versus left brain argument. You only wind up with a headache. Trust that gut. Whatever you get instantaneously and first is right. Every time.
Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us. That was fascinating. If you want more information on Carolyn Pope and the art of animal communication, head to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Stay with us after the break, another interesting guest with an exciting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, holistic coach Steve Hall is talking about identity and uniqueness.
Welcome back, and now we have Steve Hall with us, part of the series on living a life of value and meaning. And next he's talking to us this time about identity and uniqueness. Steve, what is identity?
Well, it's many things, Linda. Some people, when you ask them, what's your identity, they might think that you're talking about, you know, their passport or their license. They might show you, you know, who they're told that they are. But it's way more than that. Like, we've got many identities. You could have an identity as being a parent. You could have an identity as what you do at work, or your different roles in life. We've got many identities. And it's not really who we are. Identities are the things that we do, the things that we belong to and perform. So we have many different identities in life. And why it's important to know about identities is to understand what we're doing as opposed to identifying with our identity and thinking that's who we really are, right? So you figure out who you are. When I got home from work in my corporate role, the first thing I did when I got home was take my uniform off because I didn't really feel like I was myself until I got dressed in my own clothes. Then I felt more who I was. I stopped being that identity at work and I became the identity of who I was at home. It's a lot like Michelangelo's statue of David, right? There's this beautiful sculpture of David, and it really comes to life when you're looking at it. And Michelangelo once got asked, how did you create such a beautiful work of art? And he said, well, I don't think I did that. I just chiseled off the bits of stone that didn't belong to David. You know, I just let him out. I released who he was. He was in there inside the block of stone. And our identity is a lot like those bits of stone. They're stuck all over us and they really cover up who we are sometimes. We stop seeing the person in the core, you know, who we truly are, that special uniqueness that we bring, you know, when we are being ourselves.
So that now that you've mentioned so why is that important to find that our uniqueness?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand the uniqueness that we have. You know, what makes us special? What do we bring to the world because everyone brings something unique that only you can bring. You're being who you can be, and you're releasing that special thing that's inside yourself so that other people can see you as well. And that's what other people see and connect with. We don't really connect with what people do and the different identities they're performing so much as the person. But inside our own head, sometimes we get caught up with being the identity in life, and we lose track of who we really are. And some people still to this day won't know what we're talking about in this subject. Well, I know who I am. I look in the mirror, there I am. No, it's something deeper than that. It's a sense of belonging and the sense of who am I really? You know, like how would you describe yourself to somebody else? Normally when you ask a person that question, they'll describe their identities, you know, what they do in life or what they've achieved or what they're worth. They don't really describe who they are. And it's a really difficult question to answer when you start thinking about it. You know, who am I really? It's such an important question, because if you really want to find out what your purpose is in life, how to live the best life that you can possibly live, really need to understand who you truly are in the core of you, or otherwise you don't have a beginning or a starting point. You know, you'll be sort of lost. You'll be living a life that's not authentic.
So you mentioned purpose. That's a valid point. So the purpose, what would you say that meant for someone as part of that uniqueness?
Yeah, purpose is aligned with your uniqueness, definitely, because when you understand that special bit that you bring to the world that they see, when you connect with that, and that's where you can extrapolate, you know, from that you can imagine, well, how can I really bring this to life? And what do I love doing to bring that specialness to life? And that creates purpose in everything we do. And it's a bit like, you know, we're talking about identity and uniqueness. Well, you can bring your uniqueness to your identity, but you can't take your identity to your uniqueness. So what I mean by that is bringing your uniqueness to all those different roles that you have in life, a parent, what you do, etc. When you bring that uniqueness, that special essence of who you truly are, all of a sudden you do all those identities with passion, and it starts meaning something. You know, you start bringing the best of yourself out and putting them in what everyone else sees, and it really escalates your life. It's the beginning of living a truly extraordinary life over just living a life where you're filling the identities, if that makes sense.
So what would be some advice that you could give to our viewers as a sort of a first step towards?
Yeah, this is good. I'll relate it to, I read a book by Susan Jeffers called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And there was a line in that I highlighted, and it just keeps coming back time and time again when I think about this. And it was, take the sticker off your forehead that says, I want you to like me, and put it on the mirror where it belongs. And that was really deep. I related to that. But still, I could look in the mirror and I could understand what I was meant to see, but the way I found really getting a true picture of who I was to ask people I loved, you know, what do you see? What is it about me that you like? And I tell you what, this is such a good exercise. I recommend it to anyone. When you hear what people actually think of you, it really is quite humbling, but it lifts you up, and you start identifying with the good things about yourself rather than consciously putting yourself down for all the things that you notice that you're doing wrong. And you start hearing how you're expressing yourself in life, and you can bring more of that. Once people tell you, you can amplify it and work on that.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome, Linda.
And we'll be back another time with you talking on another amazing topic. Any more information on Steve Hall and living a life of value and meaning, and particularly with identity and uniqueness, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and we'll see you after the break. Stay tuned. After the break, health coach and author Kaveri Sequeira is talking about food marketing. Welcome back, and for our next guest we have Kaveri Sequeira, a certified health coach and author, and she's here today talking to us about food marketing. So welcome, Kaveri.
Thank you, Linda. It's great to be back.
Food marketing, Kaveri, what is the impact of food marketing?
Thank you, Linda. So we're actually subconsciously primed from a very young age when it comes to food. For example, when you think about Christmas, you think about Santa. You think about Santa. Children associate, Santa with pleasure because it's presents. Now Santa's colors are red and white. Now, can you think of another fizzy drink company that also uses red and white in their marketing? Now, that is a level of priming that we are used to without being aware from a very young age. I can give you another example. If you look at how food is marketed to us, low fat, skim milk, no fat, that's as soon as you go into the supermarket aisle, you look at these things and you think, okay, I'm trying to be more healthy, so maybe I should make one of these choices. It's right in front there, it's like really well advertised, it's colorful. But when you actually look at it, if you look at the back of the packaging, where the ingredients are for that particular item, you might actually find that there's so much of processed ingredients in that. There's sugar in that, which is hidden in different names. So actually, are you aware that there's actually 65 names or more of sugar? So sugar may not, so you might think you're making a really good choice by making a low fat or no fat, but that's being replaced by processed food, or worse, with things like sugar and in its different names. So you might actually think you're making a healthy choice, but actually you're not. And that is one of the impacts of food marketing. So another example is when, say, you go to a restaurant. Have you ever actually wondered why in the restaurant they give you free bread as soon as you walk in? What happens with free bread is that it's got a lot of junk sugars. And when you actually eat it, your body actually gets more hungry, not less. Have you wondered why you're never full after eating like 3 of those pieces of bread? The reason is we're not getting our nourishment from that food. It is not nourishing. It actually makes you more hungry. What happens when you're more hungry? You're going to order more. And that is all part of the subconscious priming that we're conditioned to from a very young age. So it's really important that we're aware of it, and we are educated on how to make better decisions and vote with our money better.
And so why is it important to know these food industry of tactics, food marketing tactics?
As I said, it's really important that we educate ourselves and be informed about the very fact that just a couple of things that I've just mentioned to you. Because if you don't, you're going to go ahead and make those decisions thinking you're making a healthy decision, a healthy choice, but actually you're not doing anything positive for your health. In fact, it's probably more detrimental because it's so much away from the natural diet. So I have a great story. I have a woman in her 50s. I know a woman in her 50s, and she was morbidly overweight and very unhappy, had a lot of pain due to arthritis, and just basically lacked basic mobility that we would expect to have. Very unhappy with her quality of life, didn't have any energy, couldn't even go up and down her own stairs. And she learned a few of these food marketing tactics that I just shared with you, and overall changed her diet to a more natural human diet. And she released about over 30 kilos, and she's now got she's moved like a spring chicken, and she basically has no pains, got rid of all her arthritis pains, and she's able to dance and do the things that she's passionate about. When I look at her socials, I'm like so happy for her, because she's just an overall happier, healthier person, and she can actually move up and down and live her life. Now that's what you want. That's how and those are some of the benefits of being aware of this and changing your buying behavior, knowing what you know now.
So Kaveri, how can we make better choices when we are shopping for food?
Great.
Some tips for our viewers.
Great. So the first thing that I would recommend in this topic is to get familiar with the ingredients on the item that you're buying. So I'm not talking about the nutritional information here, guys. I'm talking about the actual ingredients in the package that you're purchasing. Tomato ketchup is you would think has tomatoes in it, and in a couple of other ingredients, but the second largest ingredient in tomato ketchup is sugar. And we all know that sugar is addictive and causes cravings. So if I were you, I would look at buying an organic version of that which has no sugar, or even make your own. So ingredients, look at the ingredients and make better choices. You could get familiar with the 65 names of sugar. There's over 65 names of sugar. So you might actually think you're buying an item that has no sugar in it, but it just may not be called sugar in the ingredients list. It may be called fructose or maltose or corn syrup. All of those are names of sugar. And it's important. I would recommend that you get really familiar with that. Get familiar with the 65 names of sugar, and always check your ingredients on the item that you're purchasing. The other thing you could do is limit things which have got refined sugar in it. So if you know that particular item, so if you know there's soft drinks, or if you look at the ingredients in soft drinks, I mean, you'll find that just doing that, you will be like shocked at what all things have got added sugar in it. Things that you don't think, for example, pasta sauce might have added sugar in it. So get familiar with the ingredients in everything you buy. Understand what those 65 names of sugar are. You could also make better choices if you want sugar. So I would recommend you have fruits, natural fruits in honey, and you meet your sugar craving from those products. Even things like grain have got a lot of junk sugars in it. So I would recommend reducing that as part of your diet as well, because that actually causes cravings as well. And dairy also is something that I recommend that you limit.
Well, thank you, Kaveri, for that. And for more information on Kaveri and food marketing, and also for that 65 names of sugar, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And for now, we'll leave it till next week and be back with more amazing guests.
If you would like to know more about our show, please like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.